to that, including one in just a moment. But I'd like to begin with what I suspect. Of all the books that are quoted by people who've never read them, which do you think would come top of the list? A genuine question. I might even pause for long enough to let you answer it. How many people will have the same answer to this question as me? Of all the books that are quoted by people that have never read them, which book is quoted the most? Do you want to have a go at that? Do you want to have a little... It's not Sun Tzu, Andrew. Stop being shit. I mean, well, maybe it is, but that's certainly not. But which book in it? Yes, Bruce got it in one. Bruce has got there first. I was just going to pause. I was going to stay. Yeah, Katie's got there as well. Oh, actually, Andrew and Ian have given me a bit of pause there by mentioning the Bible. Well, yeah, all right. Very, very few people, apart from Donald Trump, have read the entire Bible. You know that Donald Trump has read the entire Bible, because when he was asked by some Christian evangelicals what his favourite part of the Bible was, he replied all of it, which is just an answer of such perfect idiocy that you almost have to give the old booby credit. But yes, I mean, it is now torn. It's not Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, Richard. Everybody's read that, but we are now torn almost equally between the book that I consider to be the correct answer and the Bible, which I fully accept. Oh, all right, fiction. Oh, God, that's going to open up a can of worms. Forget I said fiction. All right? Okay, so which novel? What is the novel most quoted by people who have never read it? And that's quite gratifying, actually. You've got an almost, if you remove the Bible from my inbox, then you have and then you get rid of Dave, who's joking around with a Roger Hargreaves reference to Mr. Bump. You've got an almost unanimous answer to the question, and the answer is 1984. If everybody who quotes 1984 had read 1984, then almost all of the people who quote 1984 on Twitter, for example, would stop quoting 1984, because it's not about what they think it's about. I almost hesitate to read you this bit, but when you notice public discourse lurching inexorably, and perhaps inevitably, into the sort of hatred that is now being directed at refugees, particularly the ones crossing the channel in small boats, you know that this is a trope. These are practices as old as the hills. Did you know, for example, that before the Second World War, Neville Chamberlain was raging in the House of Commons about how awful welfare claimants were? I told you I was going to reference Nye Bevan a lot today. That play is very fresh in my memory. You're going back to the 1930s. You got Neville Chamberlain on the Tory benches explaining that the country can't afford to support people on welfare, unemployed minors, for example, receiving far too much in state handouts. But it's to 1984 that I turn first. No, it's not How They Broke Britain, Mike. Everybody's read that, and everybody who has read it should be quoting it liberally. I hesitate to share this with you because, listen, I mean, I don't know why you feel the way you do about small boats, but I do know how much effort, and of course I don't know how you feel about it, but I do know how much effort has been put in to making you feel like this. And this is Winston Smith, the hero, if you like, of George Orwell's 1984, recounting a visit to the cinema on April the 4th of 1984. And I'm going to read you quite a bit of it, because 1984 is a warning. It is an alarm bell designed to make us understand what our future, what our shared future could hold if certain powers and certain forces are allowed to ride roughshod over what we hold dear. Last night, says Winston, to the flicks, all war films. One very good one of a ship full of refugees being bombed somewhere in the Mediterranean. Audience much amused by shots of a great huge fat man trying to swim away with a helicopter after him. First you saw him wallowing along in the water like a porpoise. Then you saw him through the helicopter gun sights. Then he was full of holes and the sea round him turned pink and he sank suddenly as though the holes had let in the water. Audience shouting with laughter when he sank. Then you saw a lifeboat full of children with a helicopter hovering over it. There was a middle-aged woman, might have been a Jewess, sitting up in the bow with a little boy about 3 years old in her arms. Little boy screaming with fright and hiding his head between her breasts as if he was trying to burrow right into her, and the woman putting her arms around him and comforting him, although she was blue with fright herself. All the time covering him up as much as possible, as if the thought her arms could keep the bullets off him. If you're just tuning in, I'm not providing live coverage from Gaza. I'm reading something from 1984. Although, of course, because the focus of these hatreds can shift according to the interests of power and wealth, it wouldn't be a Jewess, would it, if I were reporting on Gaza? If he was trying to burrow right into her and the woman putting her arms around him and comforting him, although she was blue with fright herself, all the time covering him up as much as possible as if she thought her arms could keep the bullets off him. Then the helicopter planted a 20-kilo bomb in among them. Terrific flash, and the boat went all to matchwood. Then there was a wonderful shot of a child's arm going up, right up into the air. A helicopter with a camera in its nose must have followed it up, and there was a lot of applause from the party seats, but a woman down in the prole part of the house suddenly started kicking up a fuss and shouting they didn't ought to have showed it. Not in front of the kids. They didn't. It ain't right. Not in front of kids. It ain't, until the police turned her out, and I don't suppose anything happened to her. Nobody cares what the proles say. Typical prole reaction. Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. Go on, look me in the eye and tell me that we're not in the foothills of that kind of process. Look me in the eye and tell me that you can't think of half a dozen people in public life at the moment who have come pretty close to suggesting that we should blow these boats out of the water. In fact, you could probably name half a dozen people that have done it. I'll hop over to social media for 5 minutes and it will be there. It will be there. You'll find it. People calling for it. You might want to turn your radio off now if I'm describing you. If you're sitting in that cinema audience cheering these murders. Or think, I don't like this. I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to listen to this nonsense. It's ridiculous. I just want those boats to... Oh, it's me. Well, Orwell knew what he was talking about. Orwell knew what he was describing. And his great gift was his understanding of the universality. His great gift was his knowledge that it can happen any time, any place, anywhere. The martini, if you like, of historical hatreds. And here we are. Our public discourse now dedicated almost entirely to whipping up these kinds of hatred. Some columns in national newspapers are knocking at the door of what Orwell describes, although for now, I suppose, thankfully, they won't go that far. People do in private. A couple of texts coming in. I have colleagues already saying that we should shoot them when they land on the shores. We're not in the foothills, says Jill. We're already up the mountain. Yeah, well, maybe. And a few people even sharing names of public figures who you would argue have already gone there in propaganda terms, if not in policy terms. It is 12 minutes after 10. I